Hello and welcome to the Fox Carolina Tailgate Show. My name is Beth Houle and we are so excited to welcome you in, joined by Corey Miller and Patrick Sapp. We're going to talk all things really college football. We're going to see where each week takes us, but really excited to break down some of the biggest moments, some of the biggest anticipation for college football Saturdays. And of course, highlighting that action, the Clemson Tigers and the South Carolina Gamecocks.
Yes.
We've got two resident experts here. I want to make sure that we give you a proper introduction to them both. We'll start off with Corey Miller. Corey, a former Gamecock himself, former NFL football player as well, and you've really stayed in touch with the Gamecocks program as well.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I live in Columbia, I'm right there, and of course, grew up basically a Gamecock fan. My high school coach, Al Lusher, just passed away. Played linebacker here at South Carolina, so I followed in those footsteps. And when I left, I came back to Columbia. I mean, it's home for me, and I've been there 35 years now. And when you're in the backyard, you got to support your team, right? So I'm hoping some great things are going to happen this season.
A lot to be excited about it with South Carolina, obviously, and Clemson continues to roll on. Patrick Sapp, a former Clemson quarterback and linebacker, an NFL career as well, sort of a jack of all trades there, Patrick. And you are incredibly close to the program, now more so than ever maybe, with your son on the team as well.
Yes, my son, Josh Sapp, is a freshman there this year. Once I retired, I came back and worked at Clemson for almost 15 years in development. So I'm still here in the family. My son's there now at Clemson, and he's having a great time and a great camp so far. But I support my Tigers. I'm there every week, and I'm ready to see what we're going to do this year.
We're gonna get all of the inside tips.
Yeah.
You realize that we're gonna put them under the fire and force it. Yes, we expect all the inside track. Well, obviously, like we said, a lot to be excited about this year for football. Both teams with a lot of different things to be really excited about. We got a peek into what the college football world is expecting as some of those preseason polls have started to come out. That included the coaches poll, USA Top 25 coming out earlier this month. Of course, Alabama, that #1 school again. Clemson on this list at their lowest spot. And now I know, Dabo Swinney says, we don't care. None of it matters. Okay. It's about where you end the season. But is that a little angst? Is that a little bit of really?
I'm a fan and a former player, but I think it's accurate. I mean, from what we came off last year, we shouldn't be ranked any higher than that. But I'm one of those players, I'd rather not have the target on my back. So I don't want to be #1 right now, starting out the season. I'd rather be 4 and kind of continue to win and get our way back in that, somewhere in the top 4, you get in the playoffs.
And meanwhile, South Carolina left out.
Did we get 2 votes? How many votes did we get?
I think you got a couple.
No target on the Gamecocks back. But listen, it's the preseason poll. And really, what it means, absolutely nothing. I mean, yes, for us, give us something to talk about. Us talking heads, right? We talk about where teams are placed. I mean, Alabama, I think, is legitimate. What do you think about they have the best offensive player, the best defensive player coming back, 9 starters on defense returning. Ohio State, they got C.J. Stroud, a quarterback, who's probably going to be right there in the Heisman again. So those two teams, they're the best 2 teams. But everybody else, hey, you know what? It's like dice. Shake them up, and roll them, and we'll see where it lands.
Well, enough of the talking. Right now we're into fall camp. These teams getting ready, starting to prepare for it. Clemson has had a couple of scrimmages. We've gotten to see. They've really felt like they've had sort of this idea of like a lot to prove this year.
Yes, I mean, if you go to camp and you'll see the messaging from the coaches. I've been to a couple of scrimmages this year so far. The offense won the first scrimmage, which is rare. Our offense struggled last year, but they won the first scrimmage. Defense usually win.
And that's important. I feel like that's like this offense now more than ever kind of needs those sort of things, right? A little bit of that morale boost that they're on the right track.
Yeah, they do. I mean, we won 10 games last year, and the country felt like, we died or something. But DJ need that confidence. We had a lot of guys injured, but they're looking good. And I think they're on the right path. I think they're trending the right way. But you hear the messaging, and it is about the chip being on our shoulder this year and getting back to where Clemson has been.
And something I've been so impressed with being at those Clemson practices is how much – I mean, trust me, they're taking it serious and they're working hard. But, there is a much more levity than I expected out of like Clemson Tigers football. You know, like they have a good time and they seem to be enjoying themselves. And that's certainly true for South Carolina as well. They have an uphill climb in where they're coming from and what they're building. But you see it out there. I mean, Shane Beamer has a smile on his face. He's having fun, and it kind of just trickles down as well.
Yeah, I mean, you know, players take on the persona, the personality of the head coach, and he has a lot of energy. He's positive. I mean, the atmosphere has definitely changed, and those guys are following in his footsteps. I mean, I was at practice just last week, and, man, this team looks different from the body. They look like an SEC team now. You look at the offensive lineman, you look at the D lineman.
It looks like an SEC team.
Well,
What's that mean to you?
I mean, to me, you know, my son played at Alabama, and I was around those guys. They're grown men. These are some dudes, right? I'm talking about big arms, big thighs. You know, they look like an SEC football team finally. That tells me that the offseason has been really good for them. I mean, I saw the D linemen. Man, they're big, they're tall, they're long, they're fast, they're explosive. Offensive line, these are 5-year guys who've been around. I mean, they're skilled guys, can run, they got speed. They mimic an offensive team and a defensive team in the SEC. Now, that has to translate on the football field, obviously, but I was very impressed from what I saw at practice just last week.
And so that's where I want to get into it, where each of these teams have won the offseason. Because no matter what's going on, there's ways that you win and important steps that have to be taken. And, Corey, we talked a little bit about some of these ways, and one of those big ones was the transfer portal.
Absolutely. Well, if you're South Carolina, the transfer portal was big. Spencer Rattler, 5-star quarterback, went to Oklahoma, was starting. Of course, he got replaced by Caleb Williams, but this guy is a baller. I mean, this guy has a lively arm. He can move around in the pocket. He can run the football. You know, this is the first big-time quarterback South Carolina has had. Now, Connor was a great player at South Carolina, but he wasn't a 5-star. This is a 5-star kid. Austin Stogner, the tight end, came along with him. Shane Beamer, very familiar with these guys. But for South Carolina, the transfer portal is excellent because you don't have to wait on getting a freshman to come in, have to develop these guys and hoping for the best. You have proven big-time college football players that are here in your locker room on the football field for South Carolina. And listen, the fans, it's in Rattler they trust.
And you know, the transfer portal.
You got that right. In Rattler they trust.
We'll see. And you know, the transfer portal doesn't work for everybody though. Like it's something that like Clemson does. They're established.
Right.
They're bringing in talent that's ready to play as a freshman, as a sophomore. But this is a necessary process. This is why the transfer portal can be successful for some of these teams, and it's helping build excitement and that sense of camaraderie within that South Carolina program.
I think it's bigger for a team like South Carolina. Again, when you had somewhat of a really you was behind the 8 ball, I should say, when it comes to talent over the years with although Will Muschamp brought in talent. But for Shane Beamer being a new coach, it helps you. Versus Clemson, they've been doing this for the last 8-9 years with Dabo Swinney, right? Top recruiting class. They got dudes. So they're not going to get in that like that.
Well, and so not necessarily needing the transfer portal, but Clemson needed some new coaches this year, and they brought in a big one I know you're excited about, Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, when we talked about this question about who won the offseason, to me, Nick Easton stands out. I mean, he's a ball coach. If you look at the guy,
he's got a bit of a resume.
Old school ball coach. Right. He has the resume, former NFL player. That played in the league, played a long time.
You know, I went to collect video because I knew, I had shot plenty of video of Nick Easton and I realized I spent an insane amount of time with Nick Easton and with his group because they're fun to watch at practice.
Yes, and it's contagious. I mean, look at the guy. I mean, he's a ball coach. I mean, that's Bill Belichick right there.
Pump them brakes, brother.
But the kids are energetic. They're around him. They buy into what he's saying. And think about it.
I love a good pass rush too.
We stole some guys from Alabama in recruiting. Soon as he got into the house. So that's a big impact I think he's going to bring
that make you feel?
To us.
You know, listen, everybody steals from Alabama. I mean, they've been doing that for years. I mean, it's when you're the best. I mean, that's what they do, right?
Yeah, but they were
Imitation
the ones who got to take one.
Man,
they were the ones who got to take some, though. Not everybody gets to steal from Alabama.
That's the key.
Alabama is not crying at all. Believe me. So you take one, they bring in 3 more. Ask Georgia. They took their best receiver.
And another big addition as well is in that quarterback's room.
Yeah, I mean, what's the best thing for a player? The motivation is competition.
Right.
And Cade brings that competition to DJ. A lot of blame was put on DJ last year. wrongly or right, it was. It was blamed at him, but a lot of injuries really impacted
and
the way
Sweeney's
he played
the first
the
one
game.
to say that. They didn't do much around him either.
And so you look at the competition. He came in 20 pounds lighter in the offseason. He lost a lot of weight. Watching him in the scrimmages, he's running the football. He looks faster. He's getting the ball out of his hands. So I think once Cade got on campus, I mean, the 5-star quarterback, one of the best recruit in the country, I mean, that brings a lot of energy and a lot of competition in that locker room.
And it's not will it ever be Cade's team, it's when will it be Cade's team. And that is in DJ's hands. How long we have to wait to see Cade take over this offense.
Yes, it is. And it is in his hand, and they're going to give it to him. They're going to give him that opportunity. Cade's going to continue to get better throughout the season. But it's up to DJ, how long he keeps Cade off the field.
When you think about this, too, Dabo Swinney's not afraid to pull that trigger, right? Because you think about what Trevor Lawrence
can't be, I
mean, stepping in and help Clemson get to a national championship game. So when you got that type of experience, you're going to be like, okay, DJ, it's your team until you let things go.
Right.
But you got to give him the first opportunity for sure.
And they certainly are. They've got full support no matter who you ask. Well, we obviously have plenty to say and plenty of opinions about how this college football season can go, should go, and will go. But we want to hear from you as well. We're asking you to share your hot takes with us this season. So make sure you follow us at Fox Carolina News on Twitter and go ahead and tweet us. Share your hot take. We'll do our best to share the best and, maybe some of the most wild hot takes throughout this season. And tune in every Friday where you can see our take on your take with this year's Fox Carolina Tailgate Hot Takes. Well, we also want to make sure this season that we're getting a look at the weekend weather, and that's when we welcome in Fox Carolina Chief Meteorologist Kendra Kent with a look at this weekend's weather.